delegates coming from the Evangelical Church of the Philippines, the Philippine Methodist Church, and the United Evangelical Church gathered at the Ellenwood Malate Church and signed a declaration of union proclaiming that the three churches shall be one church known as the United Church of Christ in the Philippines. Elected officers were Reverend Enrique Sobrepeña, Reverend Cipriano Navarro, Reverend Leonardo G. Dia, Reverend Proculo Rodriguez, Reverend Hugh Bausman, Mr. Jose L. Navarro, Reverend Stephen L. Smith, Bishop for Luzon, Bishop for Visayas, Bishop for Mindanao, General Evangelist, General Treasurer, and General Secretary. The basis of union provided the initial structure of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines with the national organization known as the General Assembly. It meets once in 2 years and is the highest legislative body of the Church. The country was divided into 4 jurisdictional areas headed by a bishop. The jurisdictional areas were composed of conferences, which were in turn composed of local churches. The offices of the UCCP were first located at the ground floor of the building of the Ellenwood Bible School and Dormitory of Malate, Manila, which also housed the offices of the Philippine Interboard Office. National programs on mission, evangelism, medical, public welfare, and Christian education were implemented and promoted by various commissions. Later, these commissions were called departments. 1952. Reverend and Mrs. Jorge Quismundo and Reverend and Mrs. Jose P. Estoye were the first overseas missionaries appointed by the UCCP. They left for Thailand, while the Quismundos went to Indonesia in 1954. The UCCP also sent missionaries to countries like Iran, Egypt, Nigeria, Nepal, Turkey, the United States, Japan, and Lebanon, so that at one time there were 18 overseas missionaries serving 24 countries. The General Assembly adopted a Book of Government and a Book of Common Worship. Bishop Leonardo G. Dia became the first Filipino General Secretary of the UCCP. 1954. Reverend and Mrs. Lorenzo Henotiva started mission work among the Bilaan tribes in southern Mindanao, while Reverend and Mrs. Samuel Velez were sent to work among the Kalingas and the Apayaos in the mountain provinces. These highlighted the UCCP's mission work on the home front. 1956. The General Assembly decided to call for the drafting of the UCCP Constitution and bylaws. Reverend Norwood Tai, a disciples missionary, was elected as General Secretary. 1957. Construction of the UCCP National Offices building along Highway 54, now known as Epifanio de los Santos Avenue in Quezon City, began. In 1958, the building was completed and the offices were transferred from Malate to the new location. 1958. A constitutional convention was held. In the same year, the General Assembly approved the draft of the UCCP Constitution for referral to the annual conferences. 1960. The General Assembly proclaimed the approval of the UCCP Constitution for implementation. It provided for the election of the jurisdictional bishops by the General Assembly with a term of 4 years and for the General Assembly to meet biennially. Bishop Enrique Sobrepeña was elected as General Secretary. The General Assembly approved the Statement of Social Concern. 1962. The union of the Tagalog Convention of the Church of Christ with the United Church of Christ in the Philippines was proclaimed in appropriate ceremonies at the General Assembly. It was held in Cebu City. 1966. A new organizational setup for the General Secretariat was approved, providing for the transformation of the commissions to divisions for the implementation of church programs. 1968. Dr. Cirilo A. Rigos was elected General Secretary.